to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
Hey everybody, we're back. Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, May 16th, and this is the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast. As always, I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, and I am joined by my co-hosts and analysts, CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What's up, guys?
Yo.
Analyst.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Look at it. He feels good.
Well, we got to break out the analyst tag because we're getting into some rankings and analytics today. So I'm not alone on the analysis side of things. So that's exciting. We do have an amazing show for you guys today. Today we are, as I'm sure you are aware, we've been alluding to what's in the title if you've read it. We're getting into our early consensus rankings. Now, today we're going to be starting at the top of your fantasy roster with the quarterback position. We're going to be taking a look at the NFL Top 100 reveals from last night. Of course, all the top headlines from around the league. Just a ton of stuff to get to. No way we're fitting it in within an hour, but we're going to try. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the show. iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, the works. We could use reviews. They help the show out more than you will ever know. You can follow the show on Twitter at the FF Fanatics. That's the easiest way by far to keep up with us. You can follow us on Facebook as well. Facebook.com/the Fantasy Football Fanatics. These are all great resources. If we're not somewhere that you are, let us know. We'll probably get set up there as well. And of course, most importantly, if you want to support the show and really help us keep the lights on and get yourself a lot of cool exclusive perks in the process, head over to patreon.com/the Fantasy Football Fanatics, where you will get yourselves at the very lowest level of contribution, even a bonus episode every single week. And generally, much more advanced conversation happening over there, so take your game to the next level. We're going to go ahead and skip the warm-up today because we have so much to get to, and we're going to move right into top headlines from around the league. We'll start with some league-wide headlines with the top 100 reveals from last night, numbers 70 through 61. Since we're short on time, I'm just going to read through them, and then we'll quick hit, and we'll just keep moving. At number 70, we had Kirk Cousins, quarterback from Washington. He went up from 85 a year ago. Number 69 is running back Jay Ajayi of Miami. He was unrated last year. Number 68, defensive tackle from Cincinnati, Geno Atkins. He was 29 a year ago, a big drop there. Greg Olsen was number 67, tight end for Carolina, a drop as well from 38 to 67. Number 66, Xavier Rhodes, cornerback from Minnesota. He was previously unranked. Number 65, Jordan Reed, tight end from Washington. He went up from number 77 a year ago. Number 64, Casey Hayward. He's a cornerback for now the Los Angeles Rams. He was unrated a year ago. Number 63, Chris Harris Jr., cornerback for the Denver Broncos. He went down from 52 a year ago. Number 62 is Cameron Wake. He was unrated last year, defensive end for Miami. And number 61, T.Y. Hilton, wide receiver for Indianapolis. He was unrated a year ago. So, guys, what jumps off the paper to you?
Well, I think a couple guys that well deserve to be on this list stand out to me. Jay Ajayi, Xavier Rhodes, Chris Harris Jr., very underrated. I think that his name should be mentioned a lot more with the top shutdown corners around the league. I feel like, yeah, he's very talented. I like to see that he's on this list. And then, got to pay respects to Greg Olsen, man. I mean, he's up in age, but he's effective and efficient in the offense, and, he's Cam Newton's blanket.
Yep. I like Cameron Wake being on the list. He was pretty productive last year. Kirk Cousins making a jump from 85 to 70 is good. I mean, that's a little respect shown to him. Again, almost 5,000 yards he threw for, so you got to respect that guy's abilities. Like you mentioned, Greg Olsen's big drop. I mean, everybody on that Panthers offense really just struggled this year, so I understand the drop. I completely get it. And finally, T.Y. Hilton gets on the list, and I mean, he's got to. He played really well last year, and finished among the top receivers. So overall, I'm good with it. I don't think I see anybody on here that doesn't belong.
I think from this point on, we're going to think that everybody does belong. It's just going to be a matter of were they shortchanged? Should they be higher? Should they be lower? I like Kirk Cousins where he is. Jay Ajayi, good job making the list. Having back-to-back 200-yard seasons is going to do that. Geno Atkins, Cincinnati really kind of struggled last year. That's a big drop for him, though, from 29 to 68. Not necessarily following that. Greg Olsen, like we said, Carolina's offense really struggled. Xavier Rhodes, one of the best and underrated corners in the league, just really, really good out of Minnesota. Jordan Reed, when he's healthy, is in the conversation for the best tight end in football, especially pass catching, so not surprised there. Casey Hayward, he's a great corner as well. Chris Harris, Like you said, CJ, he is another one of those underrated guys who he's a shutdown top elite corner in the league. Cameron Wake, the only reason he didn't make the list last year is because he was coming off the Achilles injury the year before. He would have been on this list for 6 years at that point if he had made it then. But back on the list again this year, and T.Y. Hilton putting up career numbers. Not surprised at all. Number 1 receiver for Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. You're going to put up stats there. So, all good guys, all deserving. I kind of like where they all are based on what happened, except for I mentioned Geno Atkins kind of confused me. Maybe I forgot something. But all right, let's go ahead and move on to some quarterback news. Starting with Jacksonville head coach Doug Marrone has said that Blake Bortles is, quote, or his throwing motion is, quote, improved. So we certainly hope it would be. Obviously, having a lot of problems with injury last year. So, I mean, is this a bit of off-season fluff, or do you think that, this is good news? I think this is good news because it was clearly something that was affecting him last season. It affected the stats of the entire offense. CJ, obviously, you're not so excited about this. Why don't you weigh in?
Yeah, I need like a coach talk button every time that
a filter,
hear some stuff like that. Yeah, like just a filter. We can do it.
But
listen, fantasy wise, you're hoping this because you want you want some of that Jacksonville offense. I just need to see it. It's to the point where I got to see it with this kid because he has a great season and he puts up a stinker. And now this is year that it's supposed to be redemption, and I want to see it. I don't want to just hear about it. I want to see it on the field.
Yeah, given what he looked like on the field this year, I honestly think this is a little bit of both. I think this is Doug Marrone trying to prop up his quarterback and give him some praise and get him going. But at the same time, it's great to say it, and they've been in training camp for 3-4 days. Okay, great, wonderful, that's nice, great. Let's see it.
I agree with you. I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, improved in what way? He's got to be healthy because he had shoulder and elbow injuries on his throwing arm, which was clearly affecting his throwing strength and motion and accuracy last year. So I would hope that's improved. And in general, he has to kind of work on his throwing motion. So hopefully he's been working on that this offseason. So all around, I'm taking this as exciting news because, I mean, we've seen what Blake Bortles is able to do. Quite the gunslinger, not necessarily a great quarterback, but for fantasy, he puts up a lot of stats. Garbage time stats count. So, I mean, it is what it is. He's finished as a quarterback 1 each of the last 2 seasons. Let's move on. Seattle has apparently reached out to Colin Kaepernick and have expressed interest in Robert Griffin III to add competition behind Russell Wilson as complementary backs. So what are you guys' thoughts here? I think that's actually kind of awesome. I think that both these guys, they can get on the cheap, and they're all those mobile pistol quarterbacks that run that read option that Russell Wilson is obviously still running to this day. The other two have kind of fallen off pretty substantially.
I got it. So they're bringing in competition for the quarterback room, right? Not running backs, right?
Yeah, quarterback. Sorry, I was looking at running backs. Next thing, yeah, quarterback.
All right.
That's a whole new problem.
Yes,
I was about to say.
RG, what? Running back is a bad idea.
Yeah. You know what? But I like this. I agree with you, Griffin. I think this is a good idea. I think Colin Kaepernick needs to. I want to see him in another system. I want to see him get another chance and get on a team that likes running quarterbacks and be able to utilize them and to help them be successful. And I think Pete Carroll has a good success track record with that with Russell Wilson and in the other quarterbacks that he drafts. So I like this, and I hope that it goes through.
Yeah.
I've never been a fan of Colin Kaepernick. I've never liked his game. Just too inconsistent, too reliant on everything to go his way in the read option. But if he's going to be successful in this league, I think this is one of the teams that he could definitely do that. Behind Russell Wilson, Robert Griffin III, it just reminds me of Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. It's like every time he's so diabolical. Snap! Oh, well. So it could be great, like you said, getting these kind of guys behind Russell Wilson, same kind of quarterback, so there's no drop off in the kind of system that they run should Russell Wilson go down for any reason. But again, this is just depth movements for me.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. These guys, if Russell Wilson goes down, which he was battling injury last year, which really is what affected his production over the last couple of years. He's
what happens when you run the read option all the time.
That's also true.
You're injured all the time.
Yeah, he had a couple leg injuries, which affected his mobility. A mobile quarterback. Here you've got two guys who are mobile quarterbacks. They run a similar type offense. They're not going to have to transform the whole offense for swapping out the quarterback. That's something I never understood when Tyrod Taylor was a backup to Joe Flacco here in Baltimore. So many people are like, put in Tyrod, come on, let's do it. And I like Tyrod, and we've seen the success he's had since he's moved on to Buffalo. But Joe Flacco and Tyrod Taylor are polar opposite style quarterbacks, so it doesn't make any sense. And if Flacco went down and you had to put Tyrod in, you're changing your entire offensive philosophy. So I like this move for Seattle, and I think these guys would be some higher-end backups through the league. I mean, I don't think either of them are necessarily starter material, but as far as backups go, you could do a lot worse, especially running that style offense. Let's move on to some running back news. Denver coach Vance Joseph has said that the team is going to have an open competition at the running back position this offseason. So, guys, we heard a lot of news that C.J. Anderson was still going to be the guy. I think this is kind of still fluff to kind of fire everyone up, but let's say things get shaken up a little bit. How do you think that the pieces land?
Well, C.J. Anderson, I think, is the guy there right now. I don't think anyone's going to unseat him. So I think he's going to be the top of the depth chart as far as that goes. Like you said, I think this is just coach speak, smoke screen. Yeah, everybody's job is on the line. I want to see some competition in training camp, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I think C.J. Anderson is going to end up being their starter.
Yeah,
absolutely. Got to get that coach button because this is, oh my goodness, you got to press it like 2 times with this.
I mean,
come on, you got Jamal Charles coming back from injury, and you're going to tell me that he's going to be your starting running back with this open competition? Absolutely not. Listen, you got to utilize him the best way you can, and that is not putting him at that position because he's going to get hit the most. I mean, look, use your back. C.J. Anderson, granted, he's coming off injury too, but he's less injury prone than Jamal Charles. And I think Jamal Charles is going to be. Well, no, I mean that's just me. That's just me. That's how I feel.
He hasn't been in long enough. So,
I mean, C.J. Anderson is yet to finish a season, but I agree that he's the guy who knows the offense. Right. Jamal Charles, he has done almost nothing the last 2 years with knee injuries.
Right.
They're bringing him in and basically investing nothing long term in it if he doesn't work out. I think there's obviously moved Devontae Booker. They just want to move on from. So the experiment failed last year. So I think this is a good way. Go ahead.
And Booker is the most healthiest back out of this backfield.
Yep.
I mean, that's sad. You're saying that you're trying to X out the guy that's most healthiest in your backfield.
But apparently the least talented. I mean, so we'll see. He was garbage last year after C.J. Anderson went down.
I would agree with that.
Jamal Charles is the most talented, but obviously age and injuries are gonna derail your production. Let's see. Let's move on. Eddie Lacy met with his first weight goal of the offseason. Hey!
Yay!
By the start of these OTAs, he was supposed to be under 255, and he weighed in at 253. So now he collects an extra $55,000 bonus. So, all right, Eddie Lacy is on pace to be a beast again.
Hey, Griffin, I weigh 253 too. Could I get a signing bonus?
You cannot.
Anyone?
You just have to go. You gotta be a Steelers fan. I'm sorry, I'm a Seahawks fan.
Wow.
A Steelers fan?
Yeah.
Oh, a Seahawks fan.
Seahawks.
Yeah.
One of our two teams rivals. There you go. You'll find it.
Yeah, I'm looking at a Steelers video right now.
So. Okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
Wow. It's pretty sad for what is this, the second off season in a row? Third. We're even talking about Eddie Lacy's weight. So it's old news.
With some cheese on it.
Apparently. Cheeseburger Eddie. So yeah, let's just go ahead and move on. He's on his pace, guys. If you are high on Eddie Lacy, this is good news. ESPN Washington Redskins reporter John Keim, I think is how you say it. He projects whatever. He projects that Samaje Perine is going to be the team's starter at running back for Week 1. So, I mean,
that's good. That's good news right there.
We know it's going to be a competition. It's definitely a vote of confidence. So it's something to definitely monitor as we go forward. So that about wraps up the news. Not a lot that we had to get to. I mean, it's that time of year. Teams are starting to meet, so the secrets are going to start being more readily hidden, I should say, and a lot more of the fluff pieces coming out, and this is only going to get worse as we move through the offseason into training camp. So we'll break the news as it breaks. So we're going to move into our topic of the day, which is our early consensus quarterback rankings. So
consensus is a strong word.
It's a very strong word.
Griffin, may I just tell the audience this? Listen, I think these next couple weeks, as we break down these positions, these are going to be one of the best shows you can ever hear. I just want to let you know right now. If you want to just talk about great entertainment, this is going to be some good stuff.
I mean, it's definitely a show to save and to bookmark. So
Yes.
for the news more than anything, for the analytics, for the thought process, for the rankings, and of course these are not set in stone. We are not a magazine. We're not putting this out to the world and saying have fun in a couple months where we have no more input on what's going to change. We're going to have this on the website. It's going to be fluid, and we're going to do another show of this exact same material a couple months down the line, and you're going to be able to see how much all this has changed, because I guarantee you it will not stay the same. However, I'm pretty sure that our first guy is going to remain the same, and our number one consensus, we all agreed, we all had him number one on our boards, no surprise here, Aaron Rodgers, the number one quarterback in fantasy. Guys, tell me why Aaron Rodgers should be and is our consensus number one quarterback.
Well,
Best
Aaron,
player in his position.
Aaron,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just that. Best player in his position. He is he is the Michael Jordan of football right now. Out there on the field, making plays where there's absolutely no plays to be made. He finds a way to do it. He does it with his talent at the wide receiver position that in name value should be greater. But they continue to drop off year after year, and yet he still goes out there and does it. Doesn't even have like a real legit tight end, number one tight end, but still can get something out of that position. Aaron Rodgers is just a freaking beast. That's what he is. He's amazing.
Yeah, there could be an argument made that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league right now. I mean, and I believe that. I completely believe that. The guy carries his team, and that right there is why. You know he's consistent, and when they started looking like they were having a problem last year, they asked, what's going to happen, Aaron? You guys are having a problem. What he said was absolutely perfect. Everybody just calm down. I'm Aaron Rodgers.
Relax.
And that's basic relax. That's basically what he said. And he's right. I mean, the guy is ridiculous. He is like a machine. He has probably the most accurate arm in the league. So love me some Aaron Rodgers. He's definitely number one.
I mean, yes, you said it right there. Consistency is everything. There's not a more efficient quarterback in the league. And he's not one of those guys that runs up the score. I mean, for fantasy purposes at least, he's not a high yardage guy, but they throw the ball a ton, more than any other team by a large margin within the red zone, within the 10-yard line, and he is hyper efficient with it. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's been a guy, his first year as a starter, I think he finished third in fantasy, and then it's been first or second every single year, except for 2 years ago where he's been healthy, I should say, except for 2 years ago where the whole offense just fell apart and he still finished as a quarterback one that year. He finished, I think it was 8th overall in 6-point passing touchdown leagues. So, I mean, there's no more sure thing in fantasy football than drafting Aaron Rodgers. The problem with that is that everybody knows it, so Aaron Rodgers should be the first quarterback off the board, and generally he's gone by the third round, so depending on your draft philosophy, I can tell you right now, Aaron Rodgers will be on 0 of my fantasy teams this year. That is not a dynasty or a keeper league. So to that point, even if you do auction style, which is what we prefer, he's going to go way higher than I'm probably going to be willing to spend on a quarterback. He's that good. He is a step above everyone else if you're going to do a tier system. So Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I don't think there's much more to be said. He is the top guy. Nobody can really argue it. So let's go ahead and move on. Number 2 quarterback on our list. This one shouldn't be too surprising, especially if you paid attention last year. It is Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady, Jason, you were one step lower on him than we were. You had him as 3. We both had him as 2. And I think that nobody can necessarily argue this because Tom Brady, obviously, he finished as the quarterback, I think it was 11 last year, but he missed 4 games. If you projected him out over a full 16 games, he very concretely finished as the quarterback 2. That's where we have him projected as our consensus rankings. So, guys, tell me about Tom Brady and why he should be here. Let's start with you, Jason, since you're the lowest.
Well, I don't think he should be there. I think he should be one spot down. So
Clearly.
let's not start with you. Let's start with CJ.
Oh, no, I want to start with you. I just gave him a vote of confidence. We're gonna do this a compliment sandwich. I went good. You're gonna go bad. CJ will end good. We'll move on. How bad can it be?
So you don't want me to third. You don't want me to argue why he should be number 2. You want me to tell you why I think he shouldn't.
You tell me whatever you want to tell. I'm just saying you have him third. It's not a big drop. Jesus.
What you just said is why
oh my
does
God,
he
move
belong
on.
at number 2.
Wow.
Moving on.
He just loves
the reason I think you gonna let me talk now or what?
Never.
The reason I think Tom Brady should not be at number 2, and you say it's not a big drop. It is a big drop. When you're talking about these top 3 guys, that's a big drop because these are the 3 titans up here, and we'll talk about the next guy in a minute. But I think, and I'll make my arguments for I'll just say it for Drew Brees. I'll make my arguments for Brees. Spoiler
Censor
alert.
Button?
I'll make my argument for him later. But as far as Tom Brady being this high, I mean, obviously, this is a guy that has been extremely consistent. 5 rings, can't argue that. He's not consistent in the ranks over the last several years. He's only finished above 3 twice. And that's amazing that he's done that. And going into this season, the reason I think he's in the top 3 for sure is all the talent that they've added around him. I mean, the guy has got talent all over the field now to throw to. They brought in Brandon Cooks. Gronkowski's coming back healthy. They've got that offensive line that is always dangerous, always powerful. So this is a very good quarterback with some decent weapons to throw to. And he's, again, hasn't been surrounded by this much talent in a very long time. So definitely should be top 3, in my opinion. Not a good enough quarterback to be number 2.
Well, Jason, just everything that you just said just makes it seem like that Brady should be number 2. Because listen, this is the most. I understand that, and we'll get to that, Mr. Spoilbox. All right, we'll get to that.
Get ahead of ourselves there.
This is Tom freaking Brady we're talking about. This is Mr. Man, Tom Brady, that has yet to have a true number 1 wide receiver talent since Randy Moss. And I know both of you guys feel different about this, but he has Brandon Cooks now entering in our offense. I see Brandon Cooks in this offense as a number 1 receiver for Tom Brady. He's going to use the crap out of him. Now, just like you said, with Gronk coming back, Gronk is coming back and he's healthy. And another thing I like about this is now with all the talent they brought there for the Patriots, Gronk doesn't really need to be the number 1 guy for Tom Brady. He has more options, meaning that means Gronk can be able to last longer and probably play a whole freaking season, and he's going to be even more dangerous for the Patriots. Now we're going into the running back. Now we got the running back position. They just stocked up this running back position with all pass catchers that can get the open space and be dangerous. So now you're telling me Brady can be able to run you high, he can run you low, he can hit posts. Oh, if those are not there, I'm going to just dump off and get 15, 20 yards doing that. Tom Brady is now basically playing video games in real life in the NFL. And he can just basically just throw wherever he wants to. He can break I can see him breaking any type of records this year because this team, I don't see a weakness on this offense, especially when you have Tom Brady at the helm. And that is dangerous for the NFL.
I mean, yeah, as much as I hate the Patriots, I can't disagree with anything CJ just said. The team is just insane. He was just looking at it from a pure stats angle. If you projected him out, like we said, he finishes as the wide receiver 2 last year, and that's with a lot of players having fantastic
wide receiver
seasons.
2, huh?
Quarterback, God, sorry. I was bringing
wide receiver.
I know. I was bringing up a
God.
list of wide receivers to make a follow-up point. So sue me. But no, keep me on my toes. I like it. So I mean, as the quarterback 2, and that was without Gronk, and he has added Brandon Cooks. Now, I disagree with CJ to the point that Brandon Cooks is going to be a massive fantasy weapon, I think it'll be good. I think it's a downtick from New Orleans. But, I mean, the weapon, him being in that offense is just going to make Tom Brady that much better. Gronk's back. His favorite weapon, his number one weapon, his go-to red zone weapon, he is back. Brandon Cooks is going to open up the deep ball, and defense is going to have to respect that. So that opens up every single other pass catcher underneath. I mean, he's got way too many running backs who can all catch the ball. He's got so many wide receivers that he doesn't even know which one to probably throw at because someone's going to be open. It's just going to move. He has, obviously, we said Gronk back, and they've got Dwayne Allen in as well, so they've got their dual tight end sets again. This offense is set to perform and probably at its highest level that we have ever seen. So, I mean, you want the guy who's going to be having the whole offense run through him. Tom Brady, as much as I hate to say it, he is definitely that guy. So I can't look anywhere else than having him as my number 2 quarterback, even for fantasy. Though I agree, if you look back over the years, Jason made some good points. He hasn't always been the best fantasy weapon, but he's right there now, and he didn't lose anything substantial to what he's going to be doing. So I can't argue anywhere else. Right. And again, we're talking the drop from 2 to 3, so it's not like it's like 2 to 12 here.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a lift from 11 to 2. So I mean, obviously, we're all extremely high on Tom Brady.
Yep. So let's go ahead and move on to the guy who was already kind of spoiled. And number 3, we have Drew Brees, who was our consensus number 3. Now, CJ and I both have him as our number 4 quarterback. Jason, you have him at number 2. You seem to have a lot of points you want to make, so go for it, buddy.
Well, bottom line with Drew Brees is, look, over the last several years, Drew Brees has finished as a top 5 quarterback every single year like clockwork. Okay? He's thrown for over 5,000 yards multiple years, including this last year. Okay? The guy is clearly the best passing quarterback in the league, and he scores a lot of fantasy points. All right? So that's basically my argument. That's all the argument I really need to make. Drew Brees is the most consistently high-scoring quarterback in the league, and he continues to do that. And I think he's going to be good this year. And Michael Thompson's going to take a step forward. He's going and get more targets. He was already a beast last year, you know. So, and to your point there, Griffin, Coby Fleener should hopefully have a better year this year and give him some more targets to throw to.
You're losing us, Jason.
Oh, shut up, CJ. So, bottom line is, this is the best passing guy in the entire league.
For yardage, for
sure.
So
I believe he is going to score higher than Tom Brady, as he usually does.
Okay. Well, listen, I respect the crap out of Drew Brees, especially what's there. I think the combo with him and Sean Payton is definitely dangerous. I've been waiting for him to get some more help, and I think this is a good year that he has that. He got some young rookies in there, and now when you insert Adrian Peterson in this offense, that's definitely going to help because they're going to have to definitely respect the run game. And, I know we talked in many other shows about, what's going on there, but I do feel that if you bring him there, he's got to be used. So that's going to be something that's definitely going to help Drew Brees. But my only thing with Drew Brees is this, that he like another quarterback we're going to talk about later down on this list, when he's away from that dome, it's a problem. And that's something that, for fantasy-wise, that's definitely going to hurt me because you can't play all your games at the house, at the crib. So you got to be more effective and more efficient. And you can see a drastic drop-off when he's away from the dome, and that's bad news. So I agree with your points about Michael Thomas. I think them two, they're going to have a good connection this year. I like Willie Snead making a step up with Brandon Cooks being gone. I like Kamara, insert into the offense. He's doing good. I don't like Coby Fleener. I think he's hot trash, garbage. So I think this is going to be good for Drew Brees, but I think number 4 to me is still respectable for him.
That's basically why I started off with him at number 3, and then I dropped him down to number 4 for a lot of the reasons CJ just said. And really, to both your cases, look, Drew Brees is the highest yardage throwing quarterback in the league. he's the only quarterback to have multiple years where he threw for over 5,000 yards, and he's done it, I think it was, 5 times? I mean, he is a monster quarterback. Now, I downgraded him for a number of reasons. I mean, I still have him as a top 5 guy, so, I mean, he doesn't get much better than that. Here he is in our top 3. A lot of that has to do with... CJ mentioned that he has insane road-home splits. He is a monster at home. He's not so good on the road, but therefore, he does so much better at home, it glosses over that production, and he becomes, this end of the year just glistening gem of fantasy points. But a couple things. Obviously, he did lose Brandon Cooks, which was a big target for him. They brought in Ted Ginn Jr., and he will fill that role, but I don't think he's going to fill it completely. Those targets are going to become spread out. They did upgrade the offensive line, but they have shown a commitment to running the ball as well, signing Adrian Peterson, getting Alvin Kamara. So I think they're going to be definitely trying to run more and take a little bit off his plate. He's another year older. He's 38 years old. They've significantly improved the defense through free agency and the draft. They showed that was a priority for them. So if the game script's more favorable and they're not trying to catch up from behind so much because they were horrifically bad, as they've been for many years, I don't think it's as many shootouts. I don't think he's going to be asked to do quite as much. I still think he's going to put up a ton of yards. I think he's going to put up a ton of touchdowns. But when I statted him out, I knocked him down a bit on both sides of the ball for yardage and touchdowns because of these reasons, and it kind of had him fall into that quarterback 4, quarterback 5 range for me. Still a top tier guy, but that's kind of why I didn't have him as, obviously, the highest yardage quarterback. You want him arguably as your number 1 guy, but the splits and the changes knocked him down a little bit. So that's all it is. Do you guys have any other counterpoints you want to make? I mean, we all love Drew Brees. We don't want to send the wrong opinion here.
No, I respect him. I think I know Jason loves him a little more, but I do respect Drew Brees, so I put him in my top 5 quarterback.
Drew Brees he's my guy. I've had him in many a league. So, all right, let's move on to Matt Ryan, Atlanta Falcons quarterback. Now, he is our number 4 consensus quarterback. We were all kind of split on, but we all had him top 5 as well. I had him 5th, CJ 3rd, Jason 4th. So, who wants to start off here talking about Matt Ryan?
Well, since I'm the highest on him, and I'll go ahead and say it.
All right.
So I put Matt Ryan 3 for me. I actually was going to push him lower. Was actually going to put him 4. But I said, listen, man, I can't disrespect this guy's year, and I feel like when you start to look at a player, and when I look at Matt Ryan, my only knock on Matt Ryan, but before last season was he was just inconsistent. And I felt like that his ceiling. He just kept hitting it, and I didn't think that he can go above that. And he definitely did it with Shanahan last year, man. And it felt like he just hit his groove, hit his stride, and you saw what he is now and what he can be throughout the whole season. And the weapons that you put around him, that he was effective and he was efficient there, and he made some plays with those boys, and he was a freaking MVP last year. So that's just good. So I can see him doing this. I see them doing the same thing. As long as you got Julio Jones, and Julio Jones is healthy throughout the whole season, if that can be a thing, I think this dude's going to be monstrous. He has a running game there that's deadly. He's got some uprising stars with those 2 and 3 with the wide receivers, and a tight end, Austin Hooper, that might be a good addition. I mean, not a good addition, but that he can take a step up. That I see he's taking a step up in that tight end position there. They had a good offensive line. So I think this season, with all that put together, man, that's why I put Matt Ryan number 3, and I think that he's poised to have another good season this year.
Yeah, I mean, the guy had a career year. I mean, he finished 2nd overall, 4,944 yards. That's crazy. 38 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. So this last year was obviously the best you get out of Matt Ryan. He is phenomenal when his people are healthy, when he has this kind of an offense. The only reason I dropped him down is new offensive coordinator. That bothers me a little bit. Not much, because you still got all the pieces there. You still got Julio Jones. He's still got all those weapons. And it was the number 1 overall offense last year. I mean, his QB rating was like 117. He had the highest QB rating. That's pretty darn good. So definitely top 5 for me. And if he can even get close to what he did this season, he's going to be really nice to have on your team.
Yeah. you guys have hit a lot of the points I wanted to hit. I don't want to linger too long. We all like Matt Ryan, and I'm happy to see you come around, CJ, because if any of our listeners were here for a while, I was talking him up a lot last year, and you were taking a really, I got to see it approach, and it took about half the year for you to finally accept it. But, yeah, I mean, look, I've always believed, and a lot of the fantasy community has always believed that Matt Ryan has been a very good quarterback, but he never seems to get over the hump. He really did last year. If you look at his career, last year was really the outlier. He outperformed all of his averages by a huge margin last year. I mean, he threw for the most yards in his career, just under 5,000 yards, as Jason said. He threw for a career high in touchdowns, 38, where he's averaged closer to about 25, 26 touchdowns. So, pretty standout. He was on a record pace there, and a record pace in interceptions of only 7, where he's averaged in the teens. So, I mean, super high yardage, super high touchdowns, low interceptions. That's the recipe for fantasy success. Problem is, those are all outliers. He hasn't shown any consistency in being able to do that. His offensive coordinator is gone, which I think is a bigger knock than people are giving, him credit for here, which is why, for me, I dropped him down to 5, where I've seen analysts around the industry that have him as high as 2 or 3. I still want to give him that confidence. I think that the guy we saw last year and what his career averages have been, I think he falls somewhere in between, which is still a good fantasy quarterback. I just don't think he necessarily does the same level of production he did last year. That being said, he's still going to be a monster for fantasy. He didn't lose any of his weapons. I mean, they had a good offseason so far. They didn't lose anything significant really anywhere. In fact, they've upgraded the defense. So I really do like Matt Ryan a lot. I just don't know if I like him 38 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions good. So I don't know. I don't want that to be, scare anybody off. I don't think it will. I think everybody's going to be pretty high on him.
Well, we got him top 5. I mean, good grief.
Exactly. So we're splitting hairs. So let's go ahead and move on to our number 5 quarterback, which this one I think is the first curveball. I think this is the first one that's going to shock some folks out there. And our number 5 quarterback is Phillip Rivers. And a lot of this has to do with CJ the Hitman Hickman. I have him 8th. Jason has him 9th. CJ, you have him 5th, where he is now finishing among our average. So CJ, why don't you tell us why Phillip Rivers should be a top 5 quarterback for fantasy this year?
For fantasy this year, Phillip Rivers would be his top 5 on my list just because the talent that's around him, man. Listen, this guy did a lot with less that was around him. He had a starting wide receiver go down, and what was it, game 1, I believe? I mean,
game 1.
Game 1, Keenan Allen goes down. He goes out there and makes a star out of Terrell Williams, Dontre Edmond, and brings Hunter Henry on. It has a nice little season with him. He didn't produce as much as we want him to, but he showed his face. He showed us what he could be, and that he can be the replacement for Antonio Gates and be a star there in that tight end position. So Phillip Rivers, he's a gunslinger. He has all these weapons. You bring Mike Williams into there. I think this is the most talented and stocked receiving and weapons that Phillip Rivers has ever had. And when you talk about a guy that you're probably going to make this argument for later on with Mr. Shoehorn, you know what I'm saying? This guy is going to be amazing just because he's a gunslinger and he has all these weapons. And I don't think defenses are going to be good enough to be able to stop this dude because all the talent that is on this team. And I think this, once again, I have to reiterate, this is the best roster offensively Phillip Rivers has ever had. And that's why I have him number 5. Number 4, I'm sorry. No, number 5. Why am I tripping?
You had him at 5.
Number 5.
Yeah.
I was going to say 4. You moving him up again?
No, number 5. Number 5.
He just moved up. He's that good.
Holy crap.
He just moved up.
You know what?
Right
I just convinced myself. I'm moving him up.
Yeah.
Well, Griffin, you're next highest on him, so why don't you talk next?
I guess I am. All right, so Phillip Rivers, I agree with a lot of what CJ said, and he did not have his best year last year either. I want to point that out, but yet he still finished as a top 10 quarterback. So, I mean, he finished as the quarterback 9 last year with, yet again, that offense being riddled with injuries. 33 touchdowns he still managed, which was his second to his career high of 34, so pretty good. But the thing that really brought him down was a career high in interceptions last year, and he didn't reach a threshold of passing yards that he's been to most of the last few seasons. This all being said, everyone is healthy. They have brought in plenty of help. I mean, obviously, they drafted Mike Williams super high, so another red zone, big-bodied weapon for them. I mean, really, I don't really know how else to describe the fact that I have to agree with CJ that this offense is ridiculously stacked. I mean, I don't know if I would say I would give the nod probably to New England as far as the having Gronk maybe at tight end might give them the edge, and at running back, they have just so many weapons, but they have why am I blanking on his name? San Diego. Why am I blanking?
Los Angeles.
Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon.
Wide receiver.
Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon.
Okay, Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, but I mean, as a whole, as an offense, I would say I have to agree. Maybe the most weapons in the league. I mean, Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Travis Benjamin. I mean, that's a great starting wide receiver core. Tyrell Williams, Dontre Illman are really good too. Hunter Henry and Antonio Gates, great red zone pass catching tight ends. I mean, the guy has weapons for days and then some. So I mean, you gotta accept the fact that he's going to be a top finisher, because even if some of these guys get hurt, he's got plenty of depth to replace them. So I'm super high on Phillip Rivers. I think he bounces back from the interceptions, which is what hurt him in fantasy last year, and takes that next step developing these guys. I mean, if nothing else, the fact that Keenan Allen went down last year, and so he got even more time to develop these guys behind him, just helped his rapport with them. I really do like Phillip Rivers a lot. It's just I like a couple guys a little bit more. So I don't want to scare anyone away from him, because I do really like Phillip Rivers. You're the lowest, so why don't you tell us your point, Jason?
So I like Phillip Rivers too. I've always liked him. I think he's gritty and scrappy. He's got a big chip on his shoulder, and he plays. He's one of the angriest quarterbacks I think out there. He plays angry. My only problem with him is, first off, he has been prone to throwing interceptions. He threw 21 this year. 2 years ago, he threw 18, and he throws a lot of interceptions. That could partially be because of, as CJ has alluded to, the talent around him, the offensive line, all these kinds of things that have been problems for him. But he is extremely inconsistent in the rankings. He goes up and down and up and down and up and down. So really, again, the best thing I can say about him is his scrappiness and his ability to kind of will his team back into games and that kind of thing. I just don't like the situation of them moving to Los Angeles. I don't think he's happy. I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem, and that's going to drop him down just a bit, in my opinion. I know it sounds weird, but I mean, look what happened to Todd Gurley. Moved from one city to another, and he played like garbage. So that's kind of what I'm expecting to happen with Phillip Rivers. He does have a lot of weapons. I am intrigued to see what he does with all those weapons. Especially Hunter Henry. I really want to see what happens once Antonio kind of hangs it up, calls it a career. But overall, I still like Phillip Rivers kind of where he is. Number 5 is a bit high for me. I think there's some other quarterbacks that are going to be a little bit better, that have just as many weapons, if not more, and one of the ones we're going to talk about here shortly. But overall, not a bad choice for your team in Phillip Rivers.
And a guy that you can get pretty darn late. If you saw our show on Friday, this is Tuesday. If you saw a Friday show where we did our mock draft, this was a guy that we had the opportunity to draft well into the double-digit rounds. So a steal. And we have him here as our consensus number 5, and all of us have him within our top 10. So somebody to definitely keep your eye on going into the offseason and into your draft season. With that, let's move into this is going to be fun. A very contested guy amongst this show.
Let's get to it.
Yep.
Let's get to it. You want a main event? Let's get to it.
Our number 6 consensus quarterback. You're all probably wondering why you haven't heard this name yet, so let's get to it. I disagree. Number 6 is Andrew Luck, quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I have him as my number 3 quarterback. Jason as our number 5. CJ, a unbelievably low number 15. Outside of the quarterback 1. I think all your credibility goes out the window with this. So why don't you go ahead and tell me why Andrew Luck should be a streaming bye-week plug-in quarterback.
All right, so let me tell you guys. First of all, when Griffin has a great talent on turning the tables on you, making me think that I'm not legit, but he's legit because he follows other marks, as I like to call them,
Other
other
marks?
people that other people that just like to follow the trend and just praise Andrew Luck for
Okay.
all what he's done in the past.
I've got a ton
And you know what?
of stats.
I'm not going to throw no salt on what Andrew Luck has done in the past, but I'm going to speak for Andrew Luck. All right, Andrew Luck, you come in there. You're the number one draft pick for him for this Colts offense, for this franchise. You get rid of Peyton Manning. What do? You have a great season, great rookie season, man. You put up 4,000 yards, 4,000 plus yards. The year after that, you do the exact same thing. And I'm happy for you. You do 3,000 yards in 2013. 2014, you do another 4,000 yards. 2015, you get hurt. Why are you getting hurt? Because you're getting absolutely abused back there because your team refuses to bring you help. They just continue to give you wide receivers, bring a running back, but they've refused to give you that help on that offensive line. And ever since he's been there, that is one thing they have yet to do. And for me, when I'm looking at all these other quarterbacks that I see that's on my list and why I rank them, I see every single person, they have helped their quarterback in some shape or form. Andrew Luck's team is the only team that has yet to do that. They go out and go get Kamara Aiken. That's the only piece you bring in there to help this offense. You're supposed to be static to go get a running back to help this boy. You don't do that. You go defense.
They did do that.
No, they did that later. And that's a guy that I hardly doubt becomes a starter. Hardly doubt. Hardly.
Can I
Griffin,
now?
You can interject.
I want to let him finish, and then I will tear this apart
I'm gonna
point by
let you finish.
point. Yes.
So here's my point, man. Listen, first of all, I'm not going to draft Andrew Luck high if I know he's going to get hurt because they yet to help him out in the offensive line. So you can go ahead and, well, CJ, what about Matthew Stafford? They don't help him out. Thank you. He just throws points, but this game is dangerous. If this man takes a wrong kick, he's out. And you've seen this dude go out, and he's been gone. He only played 11 games. And what was that, 2015? That hurt. No, not even 11. He played 7 games.
Yes.
That hurts you. You put this dude up high, and you draft him high, and he has a season like that. What are you? You're stuck. Okay. And what you got to do, you got to redeem yourself and go get somebody else. No, I'd rather see him fall as low as he can go, and I'll pick that up. I will go with what I got him number 15. I'll go 14 other quarterbacks before I go Andrew Luck, just because they refuse to help him out.
I think that CJ's just trying to drive him down so he can get him later in his drafts.
I'm not touching him. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't want no parts of it. He has good weeks, but I don't trust him. I don't trust that offense.
Can cooler minds prevail now? Can I counter? Okay. For starters, I get your points, but I think you went too far the other way. So let's just look at him really quick. So you brought up the past, so let me weigh in. In the years that he has been a quarterback in the league, starting in 2012, he finished for fantasy as the quarterback 8, 6, number 1. Then obviously he got hurt in 2015, 28, and then 4 again. So he has been a top 6, obviously starter elite quarterback every single year that he has been a quarterback in this league, except for the year he got hurt. He finished as the number 4 quarterback last year, despite missing a game. So if he had gotten those stats, I believe he was statted out to finish number 3. He was playing through an injury in his throwing arm all season, which he has had corrected now, which should help him a lot. He was talking about how much that affected everything he was doing last season. He had pass catchers that were hurt. Obviously, Dante Moncrief, their big red zone weapon, he missed half the season. Philip Dorsett missed time and was a massive letdown, which they corrected by bringing in Kamara Aiken, as you mentioned. Dwayne Allen was basically missing in action last year. He was a big letdown. He did miss 2 games as well. So all these things were downers for the offense. He still finished as the number 4 quarterback missing a game. What have they done? As I mentioned, they brought in Kamara Aiken, who was an incredibly underrated possession receiver, that move the chains type guy that he has not had to this point in this current offense last year. They brought in O-line help. They drafted Zach Banner, who is a great run-blocking offensive lineman, and he is developmental for the starting offensive line. I think he'll be an upgrade for them there, extra protection. I think that you're underrating the weapon that they drafted at the running back position of Marlon Mack, who is a very fast, slanty receiving weapon. He's a good runner. He is going to develop incredibly well behind Frank Gore. I love him in this offense. I wish they had obviously been able to get their hands on a Dalvin Cook, but was not to be. And they have massively upgraded the defense, so that's not going to allow them to run the score up as much, and it's going to let the offense be fluid with this new running game. So I don't think that the defense is going to be able to blitz the quarterback as often because they're not going to be in necessarily as desperate passing situations as often. They added 12 new defensive players this offseason. So as a whole, all these things are votes of confidence to me in Andrew Luck, who has been a fantasy elite quarterback for his entire career. And I can't see a way that he doesn't finish as a quarterback one, much less finishes all the way down as barely a streaming option. So we both made our arguments. Jason, why don't you weigh in?
I forgot I was here.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So, all right. So here's the deal. I had him rated at 5th, which is one higher than where we ended up with him on the consensus. So obviously I disagree with CJ. I can't see him finishing 15th. I mean, he's never done that bad except for the year he got injured in his entire career. Like I said, he would have to walk out onto the field and snap his ankle and fall down before he even touched the ball. Like immediately. He has to pull Robert Griffin III, you know. Hey, Rob, smack. Oh, high five, broke his arm. Now, I disagree with you because I don't think he definitely does not finish in the top 3. And here's the reason why. You mentioned a lot of weapons that he's got. First off, Aiken is not going to be a thing. I mean, he's a possession receiver. That's great, but it's not. I don't think Aiken's going to matter as much as you think he is. I think you're higher on him. Way higher.
He's going to be their number 3 guy. He's not going to be a massive piece. I'm just saying. 'Cause, he came from my Ravens, so I have a lot of tape on him. Go ahead.
Moving on. The running game, I mean, this all comes down to one argument for me as far as why he's not higher for me. The offensive line is a swinging door. Okay? The guy gets hit more than any other quarterback, pretty much. He's on his butt half the game, pulling himself up off the turf. So CJ has a point when he talks about that. They did not address the offensive line effectively, and they have not gotten any better. So that's my concern when it comes to Andrew Luck, is that he can have all the weapons in the world. He can have the greatest receivers on the planet, but if he doesn't have 3 seconds to get rid of the football, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. You can put the greatest. You can have Randy Moss on one side and Jerry Rice on the other, and it's not going to matter if he can't get the ball to them. So I like Andrew Luck. I think he's got an extreme upside, and we've talked about this in the past. I would like to see him have that breakout season where he actually shows what he can do, because I think he'll be number 1 overall at some point. But he's got to have an offensive line, because all the talent goes to waste behind, that like I said, that rusty gate of an offensive line he's got.
Yep. I mean, he did finish as the quarterback 1 in fantasy in 2014. Yeah. Just saying.
He did it 1 year with Griffin.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Just to his point.
And this is what I'm saying about this. A guy that he gets compared a lot to in the whole draft process, and even going to this point, is Ben Roethlisberger. Look when Ben Roethlisberger came into the league. Their offensive line was not as stout and talented like it is right now. They had to draft that. They had to help their franchise quarterback and put those pieces in place. And then they brought the talent around him with the Antonio Browns, at that time, your boy that's playing with you now, Mike Wallace? Had Mike Wallace at that time. And then they brought in Matavius Ross. They went from the line, they went from the trenches, and then they went out to the receivers. The Colts, what they've done, they've gone to the receivers and other weapons before they've addressed that offensive line.
That's why they fired their old GM, because he refused to help.
And that's great. Listen, yeah. I'm not knocking you. You needed to get that defensive help. But what is more important at this point in time? You paid Andrew Luck all that money. And if he gets hit the wrong way, which this team is known for, letting that quarterback just get blasted, all that money goes to waste, because this dude, you did not effectively protect your investment. You have yet to do that. So I can't get down with that. For me, as an owner and a fantasy enthusiast, I cannot put him out there like that when I know this team is yet to put him up there and say, you know what, we got to take this more seriously and protect Andrew Luck. Because they don't. They've shown it. They've shown they don't really care about Andrew Luck.
Well, they were unfortunate that now that they have shown a commitment to trying to help him, it was just a horrible free agency and draft for a lineman. They, like I said, they did get a lineman. I expect them to add more pieces as there are cap casualties. I mean, there are some decent linemen who are still available that they are currently in talks with, so we'll see. But, I mean, all the points I made, I cannot look away from all these trends, the facts, the information, the surrounding pieces, the additions. And, yeah, true. Injuries, they're a thing, but what's one thing we always say? You can't predict injuries because, they're freak accidents. They happen. Yes, he gets hit a lot, but, I mean, we'll see how that all translates. But we're spending way too much time on Andrew Luck. Again, I have him 3, Jason 5, so we both have him top 5, CJ at 15. So let's move on to number 7, Jameis Winston, quarterback, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, our number 7 overall. I had him 7 as well. So did Jason, and CJ down at 10. So I thought you were going to be the highest out of the three of us here.
I did too.
CJ.
I was a little shocked by that.
Yeah. So why don't you tell me why Jameis Winston is only 10th for you?
Well, for the other guys that I have in front of him, I said, listen, I know I'm going to have Jameis Winston top 10. There's other guys I like ahead of him. I like the talent that he has there. I think this is his third year in the league. I think this is the best receiving core talent that he's had. Vincent Jackson, I thought he was a good veteran receiver, but I think he came toward the end of his, the height of his powers basically last year with the injuries styling up, and he's getting a step slower. So I like the piece of Deshaun Jackson coming there. I like Chris Godwin. I definitely like O.J. Howard. So I like all the pieces that he's gotten right there. And I still don't think this is disrespectful. He's still a top 10 quarterback for me. That's why I put him right there. I would love to be higher, but there's still other guys that I have there ahead of him that I believe in and like a lot more than Jameis. Love me some Jameis, though. But, this is why I had to put him in the top 10. I thought I could still be respectful and, tip my hat to him and keep it at 10, though.
Jason?
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, top 10, that's not shabby at all. They added a lot of weapons for Jameis Winston, though. I mean, and he's gotten better every year. He's on an upswing, in my opinion. So I definitely think he is on par to eventually crack into that top 5. This season, I think 7 is the perfect location to put him, because I think that's going to kind of be where his progression takes him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Thing is, Jameis Winston, he has done something that I don't think they said anyone has done before him. I believe if my stats in my head are right, I have to look it up. Throwing for over 4,000 yards in both of his first 2 seasons. I mean, he has been very successful where he's basically only had one consistent weapon in Mike Evans, which everyone knew was his main weapon, and they were triple covering. Obviously, that opened up the opportunity for Cameron Braid and certain receivers to get a lot of volume, but Vincent Jackson has been a shell of the player that he was during his time in San Diego before becoming a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Now they have surrounded him with talent. They have a lot of running backs, which has not changed. They brought in the best tight end, arguably within the last decade or so, in O.J. Howard. They got Chris Godwin, who was, personally for me, I had him at one point as a top 3 rookie wide receiver. And they obviously brought in Deshaun Jackson, as we already mentioned. They have surrounded him with weapons to help take him to the next level. And I see no reason why he does not take that next step. The defense is pretty legit. They're going to keep them in games. So, I mean, Jameis Winston, on one hand, I feel like I might have him too high. On the other hand, I feel like that's exactly where he should be, just looking at the players that I have around him. So I love Jameis Winston right now. And again, if you listen to our draft show on Friday, this is another guy that we were able to get. We were in double-digit rounds when we drafted him, weren't we?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I remember the show was still good.
It was tense, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, he's not... When you go down that low and you see that he's there, it's just like, what in the world is Jameis Winston doing here? And what was that, like the 11th or 12th round? Like, it was super late. I think it was super late we got him. Like, what is this? Like, this is a guy that's going to finish, and, it could be top 5 if everything goes right.
We got him in the 10th round, the end of the 10th round.
Yeah, if everything goes right for Jameis, he should be a top 5 fantasy quarterback.
Yep. And honestly, again, hindsight's 2020. We could have gotten him as late as we could have gotten him another round later. Quarterbacks didn't start going again until about the 12th round in our draft. So
possibly, yeah.
I mean, again, hindsight, we saw what happened. So, and at that point, that was teams drafting their second quarterbacks. So, I mean, I think this guy has all the upside in the world to finish as a number one fantasy weapon. He's been right around, depending on the size of your league, quarterback one the last couple of years, in his first 2 years, obviously. So, I mean, the sky's the limit with the weapons they've given him. So I'm very high on Jameis Winston. Let's go ahead and move on.
He's up to me with Phillip Rivers because he is just that gunslinger, man. He got that dog in him. That's why I really like Jameis, man.
Yeah, and again, both guys that you can get late. Phillip Rivers went in the 12th round in our mock draft, so I finally was able to find it. So look at that, and so did Derek Carr. Those are the three guys we were kind of waiting on. Let's move on to Derek Carr, actually. Our number 8 consensus quarterback on the season. I have him 9, CJ has him 9, Jason has him 8. I think we can all agree here that he's going to be back. He's going to be healthy. He has a great offensive line buying him all the time in the world to pass the ball. They brought in a speedy threat to help stretch the field and help the offense flow even better in Cordell Patterson. They brought in a running threat that they have to respect in Marshawn Lynch, provided he returns to being the player that he was. Derek Carr, look, he's been good. He's been trending, getting better and better every single year. Why not? I see no reason why he doesn't finish as a quarterback 1, and having him here as our consensus 8, I don't hate that at all. What do you guys thoughts? I can't talk. What is wrong with me?
He's a guy that
is a thing.
Yeah. He's a guy that I've always found the way to get him on my team, and I've yet to be disappointed. I love the process that they've done in Oakland with him. They took their time in developing him, bringing the necessary talent pieces around him. I love the relationship and the chemistry he has with Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree. I've always been a fan of Michael Crabtree, and I love the fact that when he left, I felt that he needed to leave San Francisco. When he found a home in Oakland and he got connected with Derek Carr, I said that's the perfect marriage for him, because Michael Crabtree is a good receiver, and Derek Carr brought that out of him. Putting him in good positions, letting them go out there and excel and win, and that just made both of their games better. I love the addition of bringing a legit tight end there that they can be able to throw through. That's definitely going to Derek Cook. I think that's going to help Derek Carr's game, and like you said, that bringing Marshawn Lynch in there, that's a weapon that they're going to have to respect. If like you said, if he's back to playing like he used to play when he was in the league a couple years ago, I think that's going to be great. Overall, Derek Carr is amazing. I love the young talent quarterback that he is, and that he's going to be one of those quarterbacks. A couple of years from now, we're going to talk about potential Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, I really like Derek Carr. I've liked him since he came into the league. He's just a really solid quarterback, accurate. He's got some good weapons around him that are still developing. Amari Cooper, it drives me insane because he could be great. You're just waiting for him to take that next step. And I'll tell you something, if he takes that next step and becomes that receiver that we'd like him to be, I see him finishing higher than 8. I see Derek Carr finishing even higher than that. So, but as it looks right now, you add in Marshawn Lynch, and that's going to give them another dimension, make them a bit more of a balanced football team. I agree with CJ. I think we're looking at possible Super Bowl contenders in Oakland this year.
I mean, yeah, that offensive line was the best run blocking line in football last year. Was it them or was it Tennessee? They were top 3, and I don't want to give wrong information, even though it's the right ballpark. But Latavius Murray was able to run for 12 rushing touchdowns behind that line. So we all know Marshawn Lynch is going to be able to probably get at least that. And, again, that makes them respect the game. I think that, to your point, Amari Cooper does take that next step this year because, that third year we've seen a massive trend of pass-catching weapons, wide receivers, tight ends, you name it. They make that magical step in that third year. This is that do-or-die year. And the knocks against him are kind of silly. I mean, they're saying, he hasn't thrown for 4,000 yards. Well, he basically didn't play for a game and a half last year, and he still threw for 3,937 yards. Yeah. The one thing I will give you is the interceptions. Last year, he was going 12, 13, and then last year he threw for 6. So I think that's kind of the outlier. I think that was just, the offensive line buying him a ton of time. I don't know if necessarily he repeats that efficiency, but I really like Derek Carr. So, I'm very okay with this ranking, but we got to keep moving. Number 9, Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks. Now, I have him 6th. CJ 7th, Jason all the way down at 14. So, Jason, tell me, what's your thought process here, or is this just some NFC West biased?
What's going on?
I mean, it's partially NFC West bias. I mean, when I watch Russell Wilson play, he's usually... Say again?
I said, good man, that you could go ahead and say that.
No, I mean, yeah. When I watch this guy play, he's normally playing the Cardinals, which means he's normally getting put on his butt by our defense. You know, we're one of the only teams that is able to go to Seattle and whip their butt. So that's one thing. The other thing, I am not a believer in option quarterbacks. I've never been a believer in option quarterbacks. I don't like them in this league. I think they get hurt too often. So with Russell Wilson, that and like we said, last year he was playing through injury, you know, and I think that's just going to get worse because defenses around him are starting to get stouter. Look at San Francisco. Look at Arizona. You know, I mean, we're adding pieces, and he's going to start getting hit more and more and more. You know, so that's one of the reasons. Actually, those are both of the reasons. Those are the reasons that I had him down at 14. I usually want no parts of Russell Wilson because I expect him to get hurt.
Okay. Well, that is, I do agree with you on that. The offensive line play there, it's basically up to par with Andrew Luck's team. It's not that good. It's not that good. They have not done a good job. But
Nick Unger left.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad there. But I like the pieces. Like we was talking about before the show started, that the talent that is starting to get grown there as far as the wide receivers goes. You got Paul Richardson there that during the playoffs he became a riser. You got Tyler Lockett when he comes back off of injury. Man, we've seen him. We saw how dangerous he can be. You have underrated wide receiver in Doug Baldwin that is great, and that him and Russell Wilson do great work together. Then you have Jimmy Grant coming off of another season, and another off season, another training camp they can be able to go together with, get some more chemistry going on, and he's a dangerous weapon. You see the pass catchers that they have in CJ Prosise. You brought in, Eddie Lacy. Then you got Thomas Rawls there. So overall, when it comes to the receivers wise and the running backs, I think this is good. And I think Russell Wilson, he finds a way to be effective in this offense, even with the trash offensive line that he has, and he gets these guys involved and gets them to get fantasy points, which in turn gets him to get fantasy points. So I like Russell Wilson, man.
I mean, Russell Wilson, last year really was the outlier, and a lot of that had to do with the injuries that he suffered. He had lower body injuries, ankle injury, and knee injury. I think even his hip was messed up at one point. So, I mean, and a lot of that you can say that has to do with the mobile quarterback. I mean, and the thing that really makes him stand out to me among the mobile quarterbacks, we talked about this back in the news, and what's made him last in the league is because he's not really that risk running quarterback. He doesn't try to extend the plays more than he has to. He's not afraid to, I shouldn't say he's not afraid. He's smart enough to slide. He does not put himself into bad situations, and he uses his mobility more times than not to extend the play and find an option to pass the ball downfield. He is a great weapon, and he has shown throughout his career that, he's just been getting better and better. Since he came into the league, I should have pointed out early on, this is all, a lot of our stats and our finishes and stuff we're saying, this is all based on 6 point per passing touchdown, which is our standard of play, and that's just the way we prefer to do things. 2012, he was 9th. 2013, 8th. 2014, 5th. 2015, 3rd. And then 2016, last year, obviously, where he was dealing with injury, 13th. So I think that having him, CJ and I have him 6th and 7th. So I think that's a good place to put him because he's healthy. His weapons are healthy. They're adding more weapons around him. And they did get a little bit of offensive line help. But, as a whole, that unit was also banged up. So I think that if he gets back to the way he was doing things, there's no reason he doesn't finish high again because, again, a smart player with weapons, he's going to be productive, and he's not going to be that mobile pistol quarterback that goes out there and gets himself annihilated on a play-by-play basis. So I really like Russell Wilson again, and all the stats are there to back that up. So any counterpoints you guys want to make before we move on? We're already out of time, so we're going to try and pick up the pace a little bit.
No, go ahead, man.
All right, let's move on. Number 10, Marcus Mariota. Tennessee Titans, he is our number 10 quarterback. I had him 13th, CJ 11th. Jason, you had him at 6th. So
I did have him 6th.
I'm really curious why you have him that high. So let's go ahead and go this to you first.
Well, the Tennessee Titans had a really good running game last year, had a really good rushing offense. I liked that. Then they went out in the draft, and they got him some passing options. They surrounded him with more weapons to throw to. and he started looking really good near the end of the season before he got injured as well. So I really like the fact that they went out and said, okay, we're gonna get you some more weapons to throw to, Marcus, and you're going to continue to have that running threat. So I think they're going to be more balanced, and I think, especially given the fact they went out and got the best receiver in the draft, I really expect him to take a big step forward this coming year. I think he's going to be up there with in the top 10.
Okay, I can see that too, Jason. I got him a little lower. I mean, I wanted to get him in top 10, but once again, I had other quarterbacks that I like to believe in. I love me some Marcus Mariota, though. I want to see him get healthy, though. I would love to see him play a full season. I mean, this is the second season now that he has yet to finish a full season. That's a little troubling to me, especially if I'm going to invest a high pick into him. I like the talent. Like you said, I like the talent that's around him now. You're bringing Corey Davis in there. You get Delaney Walker back and healthy. And you got Rashad Matthews there. You got that running game. So he's got great pieces in there. One thing that really stands out to me with him is I felt that they really took the training wheels off of him. They stopped trying to make him into a quarterback they want him to be and just let him be him. What got him so successful at Oregon and why he was sought out to be a high drafted quarterback a couple years ago. And I saw him getting comfortable. Getting used to getting comfortable running, being mobile about that, be able to use that mobility and being smart to do that, and how it's effective in him passing the ball, getting his receivers open. So I love all of that. The big thing to me is just seeing him finish a whole season. If he does that, I definitely agree with you. I think he could be finish top 10 in fantasy, and he can probably even crawl up there if he plays his cards right and everything goes good, he can get in that top 5 too. I know it's only top 5, but I mean he's so talented and he's so fast and he's so smooth when he runs. I can see that happening, man. And those rushing points for quarterbacks, those things are gold. If you saw what Cam Newton was doing a couple of years ago when he was fantasy MVP. You had him on your team. That was a ridiculous season. So if Marcus Mariota can be able to do some stuff like that, this dude will be a monster.
Yeah, I think the main concern has already been said plenty of times. He has yet to finish a season. He's also not a high-volume quarterback. I mean, last year 451 attempts, so I mean that's getting up there. But that was in 15 games. He only missed one game. 3,400 yards, not a ton of yards, and a lot of that has to do with just the offensive philosophy there. They want to run the ball, and they do it very well. The exotic smash mouth, as they like to say it, running game. DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry, possibly the best, well, not probably, easily one of the best running back tandems in the league, just monstrous. And they did go out, they got Corey Davis, which was surprising to a lot of people with the 5th pick. And, Rashard Matthews, then I think they have a good complement of wide receivers there. Tajay Sharp, don't know what his future is going to be, but, maybe he takes that next step if he's back. Delaney Walker, I think he's definitely kind of reaching the end of his career. So I'm not sure how much he has left in the tank, but I think his passing game goes up, but I don't think that that's really the identity of this team. So that's why I have him finishing right where he finished last year, right outside the quarterback ones as 13th. I think he's going to be a really good option for you, and I think if you play the matchups right, he could be a week-winning performer. I just don't think he's necessarily one of those guys that you're going to plug in and play matchup-proof, set-it-and-forget-it type guys, though I do like the upside of Marcus Mariota. I think he has his best year to date without, any doubts. Let's move on. Number 11.
Griffin, I was not laughing at you. I was just laughing at that news from last week with Tajay Sharp.
you were remembering the Tajay Sharp news?
I was, yes.
Yeah.
I was remembering.
All right, we're going to hit these guys real fast. Number 11, Dak Prescott, Dallas. He is our number 11 quarterback. I had him 10, CJ 8, Jason 15th. I honestly might move him down a bit personally. I know he finished really, really high last year. He finished as the quarterback 6, but I think that's a lot of, people didn't know what to expect of him, and they're really trying to prevent the run with Ezekiel Elliott. And we've seen a lot of passing offenses take that next step and really become, a higher level offense as far as passing than what Dallas has, where they really have Dez Bryant and then a big drop off behind him, which is the main reason I don't necessarily know if he continues to play at that level and that efficiency with a whole offseason of defensive coordinators being able to study his tape. What are your guys' thoughts real fast?
Well, I have him the highest. I have him at 8. I think with him, what got me, I was banging the table for him all preseason, and he goes out there and he does exactly what I thought he was going to do. He's an awesome quarterback, and he did more with less to me because like you guys were saying before the show, he doesn't really only has one legit wide receiver out there, Des Bryant. He has an agent tight end that he was using, and then Cole Beasley's there, and then that running game. Yet he was still efficient and very smart, very savvy in that offense, and he made it seem like he had 3 or 4 great fantasy options there when he really truly only had one because he was just so effective in that offense. I see him continue to do that because he's going to get more of the workload there. He's going to get even more control of the offense there, and he gets another year in this league. This dude, the only 2 bad games he had was against the Giants, and that was a division opponent. So you can see that happening. Outside of that, this dude run rep shop on the league, and he was awesome at it, and he didn't really turn the ball over that much, and that's another awesome thing for a rookie and for your quarterback. So that's why I love that price guy.
All right.
Yeah, the turning the ball over, I'll give you for sure. I mean, he threw 4 interceptions last year. 4 interceptions. There was only one starting quarterback that threw less interceptions, and that's Tom Brady, and he missed a bunch of games. So that's impressive. However, this is a run-first offense, just like what we talked about with Marcus Mariota. But in this particular case, they didn't add a lot of receiving options around him. I am not a believer in Des Bryant. I think he's inconsistent at best. And he's not. This offensive line is still going to be great, and that may be why he rises up as high as we've got him. But the sophomore slump is a thing. I highly expect that we're going to see a little bit of a slump from him, especially given that, as we've mentioned in the past, defenses now know what to expect from this team. Now, they had 2 rookies in the most important positions pretty much on the field as starting running back and starting quarterback, and defense didn't know how to scheme for them because they hadn't seen him play yet. Now they know how to scheme for him, so I think we're going to see a little bit of a drop down to about the middle of the pack.
Yeah, I might move him down, honestly, but just based on where he finished and that offensive line buying him time, I have him at 10. I don't know. I have to look at my stats and see how it all plays out.
Move on.
Yeah. Final guy we're going to talk about today, our number 12, our final starting quarterback. You threw me off there, Jason. Is Eli Manning of the New York Giants, and we all have him pretty evenly tiered. I have him at 15th. And both of you have him at 13th, and I'm probably actually going to end up moving him up. There's just a lot of guys who I jumbled into kind of the same tier, and I have to filter that out a little bit. But, what is there really to say? I mean, he had really kind of a down year last year, but, now they've got another year in the system. They've added 2 really good pass-catching weapons to that offense. I mean, if Eli Manning doesn't perform this year, then he's basically reached his cap, and I think he's on his way out of the league. What are you guys' thoughts?
Brandon Marshall, Odell Beckham Jr., and Sterling Shepard, are his receivers, and they just got Evan Ingram as his tight end. This dude has got weapons to throw to. The only reason that I got him all the way down at 13, and he ended up at 12 for us, is they did not address the offensive line effectively, and that needs help. And like we said before, you got all these wonderful weapons, but you got to have an offensive line to keep him upright. Otherwise, he's going to be on the turf. So I really love this year for Eli Manning. I think he's got an opportunity to do something special. I hope they go out and get a couple of free agent offensive linemen because they're going to need them.
Yep. Any thoughts, CJ?
Listen, man. I think this is, and I've been waiting for this year, hoping and praying for this year. He has no other excuse. If he doesn't do it this year, he sucks. He needs to go. He needs to get out of here.
He's gonna start going the way of his brother. Start being phased.
He's garbage. He's garbage. If you don't do anything with Brandon Marshall, Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram, if you don't do anything with these guys, you are exactly the guy that I knew you were. It's garbage.
He is who we thought he was.
And I can't wait for him to do it. But I don't know a nice thing to say about Eli because he's so frustrating. He goes out there, he can put together a couple good games, and then you have a game where he's just oblivious to anything when it comes to coverages and to how to be able to just throw the ball properly, clock management. He don't know how to do anything. He can be a great quarterback, and then he just goes and be like he's a rookie at times. So he's annoying. He's annoying to me as a quarterback. So I wanted him lower, but I couldn't justifiably say, listen, CJ, look at this talent that he has there. You can't put him that low. And so that's why I have him at 13.
Fair enough. All right, well, that's going to do it for us today. If you guys want more of this information, I mean, that was our top 12 quarterbacks, our starting quarterbacks for what we consider a standard team, or standard league, rather, 12 teams. We're going to, if you want to keep this going, head over to the Patreon page, and we're going to go through our next 6 or so quarterbacks, our top streaming options. I mean, there's a lot of names we haven't gotten to yet, including some key ones in no particular order, like a Cam Newton, or a Blake Bortles, or a Carson Palmer, Matthew Stafford, Ben Roethlisberger, Kirk Cousins. Where are all these guys? Well, if you guys want to know where they are and why we have them, where we have them, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Get yourselves a nice look. Also, make sure you guys tune in on Friday, where we're going to be continuing our consensus rankings, moving on to the running back position. So that's where things are going to be a lot of fun. So a lot of discrepancies there, I'm expecting. I mean, look at how how wide we are on quarterbacks, which a lot of people would say were pretty obvious, and not the case. So again, subscribe, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Podcast Addict. Please rate, review. If you guys give us a rating and a review, we'll happily give you a shout out on the show. Follow us on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, or individually, I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ is at CJ Hickman 89. Jason is at Jason Cabrera 13. Any parting thoughts before we sign off, guys?
Guys, come over to Patreon. Follow us. Let's continue this conversation.
There's great content over there. Some of our best shows are over there.
Yeah, man.
All
Raw.
right. Yeah,
Cut.
raw. Yeah, a little bit less structured. A lot more information. Much more advanced topics, especially if you're looking for stuff already to this point. Talking, more in-depth rookies, IDP, auction, all that stuff. We're getting into that pretty in-depth already over on Patreon. So if you want to learn more, patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. So we are out of here. We will see you on Friday, where we will be talking about running backs. Everyone, have a good week. Take care. We'll see you then. Bye.
Yeah.
Life in the fast lane, moving at the speed of life, and I can't slow down. Only got a gallon in the gas tank, but I'm almost at the finish line, so I can't